Hello. Welcome to the first episode of Ab Aage Kya, the podcast where we try to understand the answer of the most inspiring question, which is, what next? Ya Ab Aage Kya? We are your hosts, Ishan and Ujjwal. So, mere bhai Ujjwal, for the first episode, who do we have with us?
Hey guys, so our chief guest for today is...
Hey, chief guest क्या होता है bro? ऐसा सरस्वती वंदना नहीं होने वाला है यहाँ पे. ऐसा थोड़ा chill रख.
Okay. So our first guest for episode 1 of Ab Aage Kya is Aakash Kashyap. Aakash has been working in Amadeus Labs as a software engineer for the past 1 year, and he's a very dear friend of ours. In fact, so close to us that we are actually sitting in 3 different rooms of the same apartment currently and recording this.
Aakash, ye Diwar, Aakash.
Hello guys, hello. Thanks for having me. Long time no see now.
So Aakash, ab aage kya? Now, when did you realize that this was a big question in a person's life? Ki ab aage kya?
People start taking it seriously from class 10th or maybe 12th, and some people realize it later, which is absolutely fine. I was pretty sure that from very young, not very young, maybe from class 6, 7, that I wanted to be a software engineer.
So 6th, 7th, you thought you wanted to be a software engineer. What was that trigger? Did you have someone around you who was a software engineer, or was it like a love for computers? What was it?
So yes, mostly all of my cousins, first cousin, second cousin, most of them are software engineers.
Okay.
And some of them even became a software engineer and then they left their job.
Okay.
So I had seen like a spectrum of people in this field. And then I was intrigued by games, at least at the young age. I used to play all those early games like Mario and all, Road Rash. So I always wanted to develop games as such. And it was not clear at that point of time, but I wanted to develop games. So the natural progression is to develop a game, you have to become a software engineer.
Nice.
At 6, it was that feeling, and I was always intrigued by computers, how these things work.
Because it's like a new thing, right? Because usual life se thoda alag tha. Ki cricket, football to theek hai. We get the physics of that, but this is like something new over here. What's happening over here?
I think our age, we really saw the change coming in, right?
Yeah, true.
Like 95 onwards, all these things started to actually take shape, like the way we see it today. So yes, that was the main starting point. Then at 10th, I was sure that I am at least going to take non-medical, which will help me first of all get into an IIT, which is the dream of, like, at least you can say 95% people who take non-medical, and most of the people want to go to a good college, not an IIT per se, but most of them want to go to a good college, and that is our like gateway to success. If you go to a good college, you will be successful. That is for granted. At least that was my thinking at the age when I was in class 10.
That's like the theoretical textbook plan, right? That's like the written. Ki college acha aa jayega to naukri achhi mil jayegi. So we were just following that. Acha. So do you think it was a personal thing कि मुझे IIT जाना है, or is it more of the environment around us कि coaching में सब लोग यही बात कर रहे हैं, these are the only words you are hearing, IIT नहीं तो कुछ नहीं kind of a thing. Even the institutes that we are going to have that IIT JEE in their name. So it's like that is the thing, otherwise nothing, right?
At least I can say that this desire to become a software engineer, it did not start from the environment around me. It came from me.
Yeah.
No one influenced me to do it. But the steps maybe I took after I decided to become a software engineer, yes, they were, I think, in a huge way dictated by the circumstance around me.
So how many people, I'm curious about this, in a place like Delhi, how many people actually go for coaching when you're in 10th, moving to +1? How many of your friends were going for these coaching and individual tuitions?
A lot of them actually. So as you might know, this coaching institute thing is now a business in these big cities. I went to a coaching institute which has IIT JEE in its name. So you can figure it out. Yes, it was not a bad thing, but it is not necessary to achieve anything basically. Yeah, there can be n number of ways to get to a goal, and it is one of them. And yes, most of people take it. Not all of them are successful. I would say rather not even like 5% of them will be successful who go to this coaching institute. But I think yes, they form a base. They teach you how to at least work hard.
Yeah.
And so that those things are obviously going to be useful, even if you don't get into a college of your choice or anything. Like, you can obviously use it going forward. So I went to this coaching institute for 2 years, and then comes a time when you have to apply for colleges.
Yeah.
Okay, and then at that point I was still in my bubble that okay, I was a good enough student, not the brightest, but I was a good enough student, and I thought that maybe if not an IIT, I can get into maybe DTU, Delhi Technological University, which is a pretty good college.
Yeah.
So I thought at least I can get into it. So I was not very keen on applying to many colleges. But my cousins, they told me at least you should at least apply for all these colleges, and let's see what happens.
Yeah.
For a backup at least, and if anything, they will give you a feeling of how to write different exams and actually like writing those. So I applied for all these, basically the premier, I would say the premier private colleges along with the JEE Main and JEE Advanced.
Yeah.
So, and then when I started giving these exams, my JEE Main was good enough. I thought I expected around in around 180s. I got a little bit less than that, and so it was fine. It was not very bad. I could get some good enough colleges, maybe not the branch of my choice, which is computer science, but I could get a few of the branches in some of these colleges. And then I started writing exams. I think the first private colleges exams. The first one I think was VIT, then came SRM, and then came Manipal. Manipal, I think I applied the college which I went to. So I am from Manipal Institute of Technology, as are these two guys. So I think for Manipal I applied at the very last, I guess. And so yes, that's how life turns out.
So you were applying to different examinations and you were giving those examinations. During this time when the results were coming out, what was your mental state? Like, what were you thinking? Because mains ka result is still a little before जब बिट्स विट्स का पेपर हो रहा था उससे पहले, and you were always thinking कि IIT या NIT जाना है. So were there any self doubts at that moment? वो अब आगे क्या वाला क्वेश्चन उस टाइम थोड़ा सा ब्लर दिख रहा था?
Yes and no. So JEE Main was fine, as I said. VIT, the first private college which is considered as a backup, it did not turn out well. So I did not get a good rank. And then yes, there were self-doubts. I remember I used to check some of these results alone. I did not used to tell my mom, okay, so what is the results? First I used to check them, and if it is fine, then only I used to tell them, because there is always that thing that you don't want to disappoint your parents.
Yeah.
So yes, so I checked SRM, then it was fine. Then after that, all the colleges I applied to, I got a pretty good rank. So I could get any branch in them.
And Ujjwal, tera kya scene tha?
For me, it was that not a lot of people were going to IITs, NITs from around me. It was like, hamare mein agar, if I take like, there was a batch of 80, 85 students, which I was interacting on in coaching, etc. So wahan se very few people actually moved out of the hometown. And I was one of them. So that was a good point for me. I think तेरे साथ भी कुछ ऐसा ही हुआ था ना?
हाँ, exactly. So I also moved far away from my home because my dad's logic was you get the exposure. Wherever you go, you have to enjoy these 4 years of your life. You have to get the exposure. You need to learn from people. Because college की पढ़ाई more or less हर जगह बराबर मिलेगी. तुम पे है, तुम क्या सीखना चाहते हो. And that's where I guess all of us agree कि वो जो exposure part है in college, which is actually our next segment, talking about our college. So Aakash, what are you reminded of when I say college?
So obviously the academics were there.
Obviously, like, engineering is all about studying.
Yeah, sure. So college, I think, does not teach you everything. It just gives you a base that you can start off.
Yeah.
Okay, so it formed the base for very different things. Like the first thing we mentioned, the people skills, the life skills. Second, you can say the academic skills or the actual skills which you will be using in your jobs. So it will give you that platform.
So Aakash, with regards to computer science, let's just shift our focus a little to computer science. That now you're a software engineer, right? So what in those 4 years did you learn, or did you do, or did you experience that helped you in becoming the software engineer that you are right now?
Okay, so first of all, the most important thing to become a software engineer is having your core concepts right. Okay, so it's not that you can totally ignore what is being taught in the classes. You have to give focus on that. most important thing which I can recollect is data structures, algorithms. Most cliche thing you will find it on all the career websites and everywhere. But yes, you have to get those concepts strong. Then I think you need to have one thing which you find interesting. For me, it was networking and cybersecurity kind of thing. It can be computer vision for you. It can be AI/ML for you. It can be data analytics for you. So yes, you have to find one of these things which you like, which appeals to you. And over that, you can build upon it.
I feel a lot of people get confused in this language thing. What language should we be coding in? What language should we be learning? Because there's so many languages out there, and all three of us today code in different languages. So do you think that there's one language that people should be following, or it's the basics that people need to get right, and then language just happens?
Yes, language does not matter at the end of the day. You need, so the data, as I said, the data structures and algorithm concept is same in all these languages. There will be different ways to implement it, but if you know the core concepts, then you can code in any language. Yes, there are some nuances of a particular language which you need to learn, but you can learn that. Maybe say in a month or maybe 2 months, you will learn that if you have your core concepts right.
Yeah.
So choose one of the languages which forces you in a way, I would say, to implement things from scratch and not have everything ready-made available to you.
And I've seen this in a lot of college, in my CV also, people have this thought that, if we write 10 languages, right? If we write Java, C++, C, Python, so the companies will prefer us or people will think very highly of us. But the actual developers and the actual development going on, the people who do that, they understand that you need to be strong at one language. And if in future you want to learn another language, then that base that one language gave you can pivot you easily into another language.
Yeah. And then I feel moving into the placements, what I felt was the most important point of placements is never lie. Because I saw people who were talented, who knew stuff, but they lied in the interview. And that's what got them. As long as you're truthful, you can know less than the other person, but you can still get through.
Akash, I'm a little curious because I have no idea what Amadeus does and I've never heard about it. So could you explain to our listeners what Amadeus does?
So it's very complicated. I even tried to explain my mom, but she does not understand. So I'm like, okay, I'll try to explain in the simplest way possible. Okay, so it is a travel technology company along with technology. They provide sales, marketing, operation, business management, all these kind of solutions to travel providers, mainly your offline and online travel agents, airports, and primarily airlines. Or in a nutshell, I can say that they provide a global distribution system through which airlines, hotels, online travel agents facilitates booking on their platforms. So this is the main primary business. They have other things, but yeah, this is the primary thing.
So it's like the middleman between the airline industry and the agent travel industry, right? This is where you hold the data and all the queries are happening, all the questions are going in, right?
Yes. The travel providers or even the travelers themselves.
Yeah. So, all right.
So Aakash, how was the interview experience for Amadeus Labs?
So in the morning of the interview, I wasn't quite sure. I wanted to join one of the giants. So I thought, let's just go and have a conversation with these people and find out how they are. So I remember I had 4 rounds of interview. First 3 were mostly technical. The 4th one was a HR round. The first round I was greeted by a French lady. She had a very thick accent, very difficult to understand. And she was very cool with it that I let her know this, that okay, fine. It's difficult to understand certain things, but she was very fine with it, and she helped me understand things. And so yes, so that was the first point where my opinion about the not changed, but yes, developed, you can say, that these are nice, accommodating people. So yes, the interviews went. She asked me 1 or 2 coding questions. I think 1 design question: how will you build car or automobile industry from the ground up, something like that. I don't remember exactly. Second round, again, more questions about coding, C++ questions, input-output questions. and then some about OOP principles. So yes, and the third one again are around similar lines. It had more of design questions than coding ones. And then in the fourth round, it was more about understanding the candidate, the language skills, and if the person can collaborate with people in the organization, and just seeing if the person is a right fit for the organization. So these were the 4 rounds.
Ujjwal, do you have anything to add to the interview process? Maybe it will help some of our listeners, because you've had a couple of experiences with college interviews.
Yeah, I think a couple of interviews would be an understatement. So the thing is that, like as Aakash said, in his interview, it was more of a focus on how the candidate is in general, and if given a challenge, how he approaches it, etc. But for me, because I attended a lot of interviews, sometimes the focus was just on the skill of the person, that how are the technical skills, while some of the companies focused on how the candidate is in general. And for example, a few of my interviewers just asked me straight questions about a programming language or a technical problem. But some of them were like, okay, if you don't know the answer, then we want to see how you approach it. So there's a distinction between companies.
Okay, so having talked about the placement season, the next logical thing is internships, the fun time. So what was your experience like? Aakash, since you are our guest, you go first. What was your experience like?
Yes, so just to mention, so I got placements plus internship offer. So at the time of...
subtle flex, but okay.
Yes, so started at, I was still in college when I started my internship. In our college, whole 8 semester, you have to do internship. And I would say that the best feeling at this point of time was, I'm going to get my own money. And I'm not answerable to anyone where I spend it. So in the month of January, we were called to Bangalore. One more good thing, we were given accommodation in these swanky hotels, and yes, so there were a lot of freebies going around at this point of time. And then finally, once we reached office, I think the first day went in orientation and all those things. And yes, then the internship started. We met our mentors and our managers.
All of us college kids are always damn fascinated by these freebies, right? Even though we were coming from a good college with good hostels, but you're like, free ka khana hota hai.
Dude, it's unimaginable. Like, from a cab from the airport to the city in Bangalore costs like 800, 900.
Yeah.
अभी भी जाता हूँ तो मैं बस से आता हूँ 200 रुपए की बस से. But अगर कंपनी देगा पैसा, तो I will take 1,000 rupees cab. And it's just so much fun. And as a 22-year-old, when the company's like, ये लो, हम देंगे ना पैसे, तुम टेंशन क्यों लेते हो? It's just like the best feeling. Like, I don't even care about my stipend is.
Yeah.
If my cab is getting reimbursed. It's such a great feeling. So, Aakash, coming to the work in the internship, right? How long was your internship?
My internship was for 5 months.
Okay, so in the 5 months of your internship, what were you working on? And like, was the work aligned with your team, or was it a separate project altogether?
It was a separate and independent project, and it was a tool which would help my team doing some work faster and better.
Chan, what about you? Was your internship, how long was your internship?
My internship was 6 months.
And what were you doing in that internship? Like, what was your role like?
So my work for the first 2 months was just understanding how the things were working. And then my project, I did not have a separate project. I was working on whatever the team was working at that point. So that was my structure. But Aakash, when did you get that feeling of working in a team? Because it's different from working in a college project, right, with your friends. When you're working with other professionals, you obviously have to speak in a different way. You have to understand what others are doing. So what was that moment for you?
So yes, the first thing was, I think every intern gets a mentor. Okay.
Yeah.
So they have to guide you, because you are straight out of the college. You might have the best technical skills, but you don't know how to channel them. So the mentor is there who will help you channel those technical skills into getting a fruitful product out of it.
Aakash, so as you mentioned previously that you were working on a project that helped your team, correct? So, what was your experience like throughout the 5 months? That how did the work pick up, and did it ever become stressful for you?
Okay, so yes, so before starting this internship, I wasn't quite sure about how serious they are going to be about this project. But in a day or two, actually in a week or so, I came to know that they were actually quite serious about this project because they had so many, like I could see all these documents that they had prepared. And there were so many people involved. There was an architect involved. There was a manager involved. There was my mentor involved. And they actually used to take some time out of their daily work and help me with my project. So I got an idea that this thing is pretty serious. And yes, so I have to work on it diligently. So yes, and then the work started. I had around 2 or 3 weeks to understand the project. And then after that, I started seeing the code base, how it is like, and what are the expectations from me. And so yes, the work picked up. I would say around like after a month or so, like in full-fledged mode, it was going on after a month or so. We had weekly, not weekly, we had, I think, bi-weekly like calls with our managers and architects as to tell them the progress. And there was a midterm review and there was a final review where even the Bangalore head and all the department heads were there, and you have to present the project to them. Okay. About how much you have progressed. So all interns used to do this. So maybe at 5 or 6 interns at a time, it used to happen.
So was there an index which was being benchmarked against what your progress should have been and where you are right now, or was it on a per person basis?
Yes. So as I said, there was a documentation about what I have to do, and there was also a timeline of sorts.
Okay.
Like month you have to be done with this much part, and then, but obviously it is tentative. But yes, there was a timeline that, okay, till this point you should have done this much. But there was like actually no one was forcing me or pressurizing me too much to put in more hours or put in like so more effort to like actually achieve those deadlines. Yes, it was a responsibility given to you. We are not kids anymore. And if you are given a responsibility, you have to fulfill it. But obviously, if you could not do it, if it was more difficult than you had initially anticipated or didn't anticipated, yes, you had the leisure of taking more time doing it.
Yeah.
They were always very open about learning things, making me learn things rather than just giving me a work and I had to do it any way possible. So I was free to open a number of seminars, a number of lectures which were going on in the company. I was free to go and meet people, go out with them. And so, yes, it was a pretty nice experience.
That's where it becomes a little different from schools and colleges, right? Where you have like, this is the homework, next week, get it done. And I feel at times the movies and the YouTube videos that we watch where the boss is like on your neck, I guess there are companies like that, but I feel most of the corporate companies aren't like that, where you can actually speak up and tell people what the actual status is. As long as you're being truthful about it, people will understand because they are humans, you're humans too. You have your personal life and everyone appreciates a honest person, right?
One more very important thing that Aakash touched upon was the learning part. So what I feel is that as an intern, the company expects and it's the best opportunity for you to learn more. And as he was attending the seminars, and it's just like you need to learn what other departments are doing, how many teams you work with, and you get to know more people, you get to know more functioning of how like your unit is functioning and in general your company is functioning. Otherwise, sometimes what happens is you don't get to know these things in full time because you have extra responsibilities.
That's true.
So in the internship time is a golden period for an intern to explore. Just explore new things, learn new things, and you got to make an impact. And sometimes people just take it too lightly, but if you make an impact then it goes a long way.
Aakash, did you have people around you who did not have this placement plus internship thing, and the final evaluation did matter for them that they would get the placement because of the evaluation?
Yes, there were, you could say like for 50% who had a full-time job among the interns and who did not have. So yes, there were people, but very few people who were not offered full-time jobs. and it was primarily because Amadeus Labs India is looking to expand. So they are trying to hire in more people. And obviously, if you have someone who has already worked for 5-6 months in the organization, and if they haven't performed very badly, then I think they all got the offer. But it was not the same last year. So the batch previous to me, the conversion rate was very low. So I think you can't say anything for sure.
So Aakash, coming to the end of the internship, what do you think the team and the manager expect from the intern to have done through those 5 months?
Okay, so I guess two things. First is how well you gel with the team. Could you talk to every person in the team, and even if you can't approach them or they are not so much approachable, then how do you handle that situation? And the second point, it's that if you're given a work, no one knows how to do everything. Even the people who have been working in for like 10, 20 years, they don't know how, if a new project comes along, they don't know how to approach that and how to tackle it. They might have some experience, but they don't have the perfect idea on how to proceed. So yes, how do you tackle that situation, and what your intent is towards that end goal, and what process do you follow? Technical skills, I think if you are hired as an intern, more or less you will have the technical skills which is required in the company. But all these skills matter. I think they matter more than your technical skills.
Yeah, because technical skills, I guess, is something that you can learn on the job. But these are your interpersonal skills that define your character, and these are more difficult to learn. So ab bhaiya, let's move to full-time Naukri. So Aakash, can you tell our listeners what do you do now as a full-time employee?
Okay, so the team that I work in is responsible to provide suitably curated choices to a traveler. The product that I work on, it generates recommendations, which you see after you search for a flight, say from position A to B, on one of our partner airlines or one of the online travel agents. The code which I work on is used by millions of people every day, at least before COVID-19. Most people, if you have booked a flight ticket, you have used the code written by me.
Oh, that's damn cool.
And the tech stack that I work on for my day-to-day activities is mostly C++ and Python. There is a little bit of data analytics involved, which is used to analyze the traffic which is coming in and the optimizations that we need to do.
So Aakash, how has your job changed throughout the last year? Because as you said, you've been working for a year. So how has it changed throughout?
We have to understand that there are two parts of software development. Okay, so one is the functional part and then the technical part. What I mean by the functional part is the basic understanding of what you need to do, like what the code needs to do, what sort of functionality that it will perform. And the second one is after you know this functional part, you have to code it out. You have to put it on paper or you have to write the code for that. So yes, most of the first year it involved technical part for me because the functional understanding of these things takes some time. So the understanding of what exactly a product does, in which module, what is happening. So all these things come with time. So now slowly I have been moving to the functional part. And so I have been starting to be part of design discussions, architecture meetings. Part is what's happening for me slowly now.
So Ujjwal, I feel our audience will benefit from knowing what different kinds of software engineers you can be. And since you are in a different profile than Aakash is, can you please explain what you do?
Yeah, so to explain to our listeners what I do, I need to explain a little bit of the software development life cycle. So in the software development life cycle, broadly there are 3 phases in developing a software, which is the requirement gathering, the development, and the testing. So as Aakash mentioned, he comes in the development phase. What my profile is, I am a tester. So I come into the testing phase. My job is to create and execute tests to make sure that the system is behaving as required after a new piece of code is developed by the developers.
अब तुम लोग अपना अपना बता रहे हो तो मैं भी बता देता हूँ. So where I fit into all of this is I come in the infrastructure services. Now all the applications that run on an infrastructure. So providing that infrastructure is also an important job that a company has to handle, and that's something that my team does. So as an infrastructure team, our role begins right from developing stuff for the infrastructure, testing it, and then moving into the production servers. So the entire flow that Aakash and Ujjwal just talked about, that is what is followed in infrastructure services as well. And that is something that is called as DevOps today. DevOps is operations and development. So you're doing both the development and you're also handling the operations of your code. So infrastructure basically comes into picture in the as a service model, where you're talking about platform as a service, software as a service, infrastructure as a service. But that can be another podcast where we discuss that at length. So that's where I fit in.
So what comes out of this small discussion that we just had is that all three wings are very important, and all three of them need to work in sync to deliver a product or a service. If one of these wings fail, the product or the end product would not be successful.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
So Aakash, you mentioned your system serves millions of users. So how do you make sure that your system is ready to handle so many users?
Okay, so the word you're looking here is scalability. Scalability is nothing but the ability of a system to adapt to increased workloads. How do we ensure scalability? First of all, we take a very long-term approach to how our systems are designed. We constantly keep optimizing them as new technology comes out. Code-wise, what we do, at least from my end, we ensure that we follow a very strict standard to not increase the CPU consumption on our servers. Before even each line of code is merged, we have to see the vital system stats, that we're not adding any undue pressure on these servers with our code. So yes, also a very key factor to scalability is documentation. Documentation is basically important in every aspect, but yes, it is very much needed here. If you have properly documented ideas or code, then half of your work is already done, I guess.
And especially with the current team structures, right? Most of the teams are multinationals. Half of them work in India, half work in Europe or America. So this documentation becomes even more important, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Because in our workplaces and in our teams and the people with which we collaborate from, they come from so many different countries. So you need to interact with a lot of people and be culturally aware about how to communicate with a person who belongs to another culture or maybe another country.
And I feel it's very easy to get lost when you're not even able to look at the other person, right? So you have to always be aware of what other people are doing, have that constant communication going on. So yeah, that's where your interpersonal skills come into picture.
Yeah, these skills are pretty important and people in college actually don't realize how important they are.
Yeah, that's actually true. So having discussed all of the technical stuff, let's come to the most interesting part for you. What do you find the most fascinating portion of your job? कि यार ये करता हूँ मजा आ जाता है.
Okay, so the most interesting thing about that, what I do is that whatever I develop is being used by millions of people. That's a very, very good sort of a feeling.
Ujjwal, do you have one thing that you find interesting about your job?
For me, the most satisfying part is that because of what I understand about the different services and the different functions of my product, is that if I don't do a proper job, the end customer will face a problem. And it's my job to make sure that whatever is going out to the customer is able to use it properly.
So it's basically the real world impact that your job causes. I guess for both of you,
I guess it's the satisfaction comes by seeing how the end result is being used.
I guess that's the essence of engineering, right? Having an issue and creating a solution for it. Aakash, you are a software engineer one, alright. Yeah, so in this role, in your company, what is the future scale for things? What is the next step after this?
So currently, I am working as a software engineer 1, or I am at level 1. So you can progress, I think, till software engineer 3. So till this point, you are a software engineer. But after this, you have a choice. You either want to go into managerial positions, or you want to go into more like the technical work that you have been doing it, and you want to continue it. So if you want to continue the technical work, you can become there's a position called member technical staff, which is basically a very senior software engineer, And then after this, continuing in this technical path, you can become an architect. So which is like who drives all the innovation, who has to bring in ideas and basically make the job for software engineers and developers easier.
Quite literally the architect of things, right?
Yes, he is the architect of things. He has to lay the foundation and he has to build it from ground up.
Yeah. So Aakash, do you today have that question ab aage kya in your life?
Okay, so I don't think currently I have achieved whatever I want to achieve. Like by no means I can say that. So yes, this question always remains. As in your introduction, even Dhoni is asked the question, "What next?" So who am I?
Yeah.
So yes, I'll be watching your podcast and hopefully even I can find some answer ab aage kya to continue from this point in my life.
Plug in our own thing. Wah, maze aa gaye. I guess that's a great note to end this episode on. Ujjwal, do you have any closing remarks?
Thank you, Aakash, for joining us this evening. We hope we've given our listeners a small glimpse into what software engineering is. In case you guys have any questions for any of us, you can contact us at abaagekya123@gmail.com or you can DM Ishan or me on Instagram. Thank you for listening this one, guys. The next episode drops on 17th of September, where we take another career path, another story, another person, and we dive deep into it.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Aakash.